Coming up on the Health Feast.
What comes to mind when I say that, Po? New Year's resolutions.
I'm gonna get a membership to the closest gym.
That's right.
I'm gonna start eating, a certain way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get that project done.
This is the year.
This is the year. It's been 41 years. It's been 41 years, and this is the one. This is the one right here. This is gonna be the one.
This is the one. All right. And we're back. All right. Welcome to the Health Feast. This is a podcast where we explore how a healthy lifestyle can be enjoyable, feel good, and lead to a more fulfilling life. I'm one of your hosts, Dr. Rak.
And I'm Po.
Hi, Po. How you doing?
Oh, man. It's good. I'm doing good. Had a wonderful Christmas. And
That's
how are
right.
you?
I'm good. I'm pretty good. Yeah. Should we do a check-in?
Yeah. Go first.
Okay. All right. I know you said we don't have to do mind, body, and spirit, but I actually really like that. So I'm going to do it. And I'm going to be honest because they're not, they're not wonderful. Mind, yeah. So I've been sick. I have a cold. I got it from my daughter, who I think got it from my son. But it's starting to get better, like the snot and everything's thickened up. But yesterday, I really had to rally. Like, I didn't feel good in the morning, but my kids, they're just, they're small kids. They love Christmas. Like, they're so excited. And I should say, I'm not Christian, but I heard this thing in a movie that we watched yesterday, which is like Christmas is like sushi is for the Japanese. Like the Japanese invented it, but now it's everywhere. So
Right.
That's kind of what, I grew up on Christmas too. My parents moved here and they're immigrants, Hindu, and they saw everybody was, getting this plastic tree. So they bought one once they start having kids. And the kids told their kids about Santa Claus because we were going to school. So it wasn't until I was a little bit older that I learned about the religious aspects of Christianity, which I talk about that with my children because I don't want them to only know it as a commercial holiday. So anyway, I've been sick. So that's been playing on my mind. When I get sick, like I don't know, it makes me feel kind of down. Yeah, I just feel low energy, and then mentally I start to like kind of spiral a little bit. I start thinking like, oh, it's Christmas. I should be feeling good today, and I feel so, it's and then I did meditation on Saturday, but what's today? Monday. Yesterday and today I have not because my nose is clogged up and it just doesn't feel good to sit there. But now that we're talking about it, I think that's what I need to do.
It's amazing how the body, I feel like it's amazing how the body can dictate all that. I was experiencing some pain the other night. Like that text message I text you, dude, the body
That's right.
really affects anything. Like when you're feeling pain, you're feeling congestion, you don't feel good.
That's right.
It affects everything, huh? I feel like and it can change.
Everything.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. I think that's like something that I notice about just in general myself. Is like, man, when something is not feeling right, it really shifts your mood. It can make a good day into a bad real quick.
That's right. Totally. But on the other hand, my wife has this cold. And my wife this morning, she can't even talk. She's got like laryngitis from it, which is fun, but so I don't have that, thankfully. And she said, like in her like sort of soft, raspy voice, she said, like we could make this into a bad day, or we could just, she said it's a mindset. You just, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Because I was thinking about this podcast and I was like, oh, I wish I was feeling better for it. Um, right. And,
Yeah.
and then she reminded me, she's like, no, actually it's a mindset. So I took some ibuprofen and, here we are. I'm gonna,
Right.
so body is
Well,
like kind of fatigued, and spirit is that it's here with you because it, you know.
oh,
What were you gonna
oh,
say?
so
You were gonna say
no,
something.
I was gonna say that the fact that that mindset is very true too. I think it just depends. That I was thinking about that. It's like if you're in a lot of pain, it's hard to like feel positive when you're in pain. But what I just remembered exactly what I wanted to say. I wanted to say I didn't even notice that you weren't feeling good. So I don't know if that helps. You see it
Hmm.
like, like you telling me that you weren't
Yeah.
feeling good, that you had a cold. I didn't even notice it. Like, man, I just
Yeah.
now that you're telling me, I'm like, oh wow, that's too bad. But yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't get that vibe that you were not feeling good at all. So
Yeah. I also think about, I worked in the hospital for as a adult hospitalist for 11 years, and God, I saw people just very ill all the time. So when I start feeling bad about having a cold, I just think there are so many people who have so many bigger issues. Like the perspective has to be there. And when you have children, you don't really have a choice. Like last night, I was putting out the garbage and cleaning the kitchen, and I really wanted to go to bed. And I was like, "Huh, you don't have a choice. You just have to do these things." So it's both. It's anyway. Let's do a check in with you.
oh, okay. Um, let's see here. Mind, body, and spirit. So lately, I've been feeling. Oh, let's see. A lot of thoughts running through my mind about just reflecting over the last year. Like things that I've
Huh.
accomplished and things that I came short on. Um, I've been thinking a lot about where I always reflect on where my life is from when let's say 10 years ago, and what my wife and I have created now. Where we're at. So
Wow.
I could say that these last few days have been more reflective days as far as my mind goes. My spirit would say. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. My body. Man, I never. I don't know. For those out there listening, I think it was maybe Thursday night. Uh, I noticed that my ankle was like in a lot of pain, and usually I just chalk it up as just like just some aches and maybe some arthritis. But
Right.
I was in so much pain, man. Like I was just like, man, what is this? And I have this condition called gout, and so I
That's right.
wasn't sure if it was. And I just know it's interesting because I can feel the stiffness happen, and that's how I usually know. Okay, I think I might be having an episode, but oh my gosh, man. I was at work. I was walking around and I could tell like everybody, even a couple of my partners were like, hey, man, are you okay? You're limping, because I didn't,
Hmm.
of course, you're trying to like, like I noticed it hurting and I'm like, oh, no, I'm all right. And then I'm like, oh, man. And I didn't have any of my pills. So I think that was maybe it was a 16-hour shift. I can't remember if it was an 8 or 16-hour shift, but by the time I was home and I could barely walk, thank God one of my daughters was awake because she was able to help, like, get my, help me with my bag and all this stuff. Cause I literally, as soon as I
Oh
got in the
wow.
house, man, I had to like sit down and I'm like, oh my God, I was in so much pain. And for those who don't know, who are listening about gout, man, it's like it's a version of arthritis that causes acute pain. I don't know, Doc, you could probably speak better to this than I can,
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's
man.
it's it's uric acid or urate, which um builds up in joints. And when somebody gets a gout flare, it's sometimes a particular joint, or sometimes it's a couple joints. It's very common in like the big toe, but you can get in the ankle, you can get in the knee, you can get in really most joints, and it's super painful. Yeah, I mean, I would take care of people in the hospital not they didn't get admitted because of, well, sometimes they got admitted because of gout flares because we weren't sure. It can be so bad that you're not sure if that's like an
dude.
infection. Like the the joint can swell up crazy.
So the location was different, and that's why I wasn't sure if it was gout. It was like where my Achilles was, and I was like, "Oh my
Mm,
god!" Like I wasn't sure. No, I ruptured my right Achilles before, so to me, I started going down. Like maybe I tore it. The mind just starts wandering, and
yeah.
I'm not a trained
Yes.
doctor, so I'm like googling stuff, pain in Achilles tendon, but that was something. So I had some pills. I was able to take some of my pills. It's crazy. The next day after I took my medication, it was just like gone. So I was like, wow, that's
Oh,
amazing.
it
Yeah,
probably
like
was. So you took some anti-inflammatory medication.
yes, yes. So as far as the body goes, the last few days I've been just paying attention to that, and I've been just keeping on a regular on my medication. Um, and then as far as spirit goes, I just been, I don't know, just been in this state of gratitude. Like, and that's
Hmm.
what for me. That's what Christmas, or this time of year really does for me. Is really I really get
Hmm.
to reflect, and I really get to like excuse me, and told my daughters I want to start a new tradition, within my own home where this time of year is a time to really acknowledge those who have made a difference in your life or inspired you, because I think it's become
Hmm.
commercialized, and it's all about me, and it's all about what I'm getting, what I'm receiving, and I kind of
Yeah.
want to instill
Yeah.
with my daughters, like, maybe starting this year on from now on, because throughout the year, and you're a parent, we're always providing things for our kids. It might not be in a form of a present wrapped up like they let it like, Christmas time, but there's always things that we're purchasing to them throughout the year. And,
That's right.
because of the like, this time of year, I'm always like, we've been blessed with so many things. From the situation that we're in now, it's like now it's about focusing on outward and what you can do to maybe help somebody else, bless
Hmm.
somebody else. You know, so that's I
Hmm.
had a little discussion with my kids after we open our presents and whatnot, and I kind of want to shift the way it's important for me that they kind of change the way they view this time of year. And obviously, you want to do it every day. It's not just this time of year that you want to do this. You
That's
know what I
right.
mean? You want to do it all the time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's what's been going on with me. Meditation. Uh, Man, it's been a tough. I mean, I find time. Like 5 minutes. The thing is, it's not what I would like it to be, but I feel like as long as I'm mindful of
Hmm.
like, okay, knowing that I need to meditate and reflect, but it's been busy. I've been busy with the kids, busy with this time of year. Um, but anyways, we'll talk about our goals. That's part of what we were going to discuss
Yeah.
today.
What are we going to talk about today? Yeah.
Yeah,
Paul, can I just say that I love your reflection. It's really beautiful. It's beautiful what you that you spend this time of the year sort of reflecting on what you're grateful for, and also the message to your children, which is we've been given so much. Let's really focus on what we can give back and focus outward. And you said something I really, really loved, which was like all the people in your life that have helped you in the last year, like really thinking about them.
yeah,
Um, I'm gonna spend some time doing that, reflecting
right.
on that this week. I think that's really nice. Yeah,
And I don't
I
know if
think
it's just
that's
because
really
of this the
nice.
time, and that's what I like about this time of year is that it becomes like like even ads show it. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like this cultural thing that they kind of create this thing, and I feel like for me, it kind of like it just adds to that spirit of like, wow, look at where I'm at in my life. Like my my happiness
That's right.
gauge. You know what I mean? Like all those things, and I feel like it's definitely been commercialized, and they're definitely doing that. But beyond that, it's just it. I just feel like more people are in that state because of it, I don't know. I just,
Yeah.
if then you don't feel the same in the summer when it's 100 degrees outside, like it's just, I don't know, the
That's
fact that
right.
it's cold, it brings
That's
people
right.
closer together. You want to cozy up to your loved ones. And so I don't know. I think that's just what I enjoy about this time of year.
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
but yeah, that's my check-in, man.
Yeah, well, I think that's a well that thank you. And I think that's a good segue. But before we segue into today's topic conversation, I was telling you before um I'm looking at the podcast podcast stats. Of course, we've created this podcast to help other people, to help ourselves and each other, but also help other people take control of their health, their lifestyle habits, and it's gratifying to see that people are downloading it and presumably listening to it. And I think 5 or 6 countries are represented. Like I was surprised to see Colombia and Pakistan
Ah,
and India, which India may be family of mine. I wouldn't be surprised.
wow,
But
that's
still, I'll take
amazing,
it.
bro.
Canada, somebody from Canada, and so many like most of the states are represented too. I don't know, I was surprised because I don't know people in like every state.
Yeah.
So people, so th- that is to say that people beyond who we just know are listening, which is great. We created something, and that's our hope over time, is that more and more people will share in this experience of figuring out how to turn their lives into a perpetual health feast.
I think that's pretty cool. Like just the fact that we have people, taking the time. Everybody's time is precious.
Taking the
You know what I mean?
time.
Yeah. So
That is your
they're
most valuable resource, your time and your
100%.
attention.
Yeah. Right. So I think
So
that's
people,
pretty
thank
cool.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because yeah, if you're taking your time and your attention to be with us, then that means a lot.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Yeah. And I don't know, Rock. What do you think? I mean, I think if they want any feedback, and if they leave a comment, or whatever you want us to talk about. I guess we could.
That's right.
We could.
I'm gonna put. You know what? I'm gonna put on our website. So we have a
Yeah.
website, thehealthfeast.com, and I'm gonna put a little box where people can like leave a comment or put a question. So
Yeah.
before this episode goes up, I'll do that, and so that'll be one place we can. And then we're on Instagram at the Health Feast, and then we're on YouTube channel is at the Health Feast as well. Yeah, we'll put up a little place for people. You have questions, you have things you want to share.
Or for us to elaborate
And
in.
then we.
You know.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, or something we said, how it might have spoken to you or meant something to you. Yeah, follow us on social media. Come to our website. Share with us. Good. Okay. So resolutions, New Year's resolutions. This is the first episode of the new year. We did take a week off, so that was intentional, so we could enjoy some time with our family and um, not feel like we have to put this undue stress or pressure on ourselves during the holidays. So we're back after a 1 week break, and we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions. What comes to mind when I say that, Poe? New Year's resolutions.
I'm gonna get a membership to the closest gym. I'm gonna,
That's right.
I'm gonna start eating, a certain way.
Yeah.
um, I'm gonna get that project done.
This is the year.
This is the year. It's been 41 years. It's been 41 years, and this is the one. This is the one right here. This is gonna be the one.
This is the one. This is going to be the one. No. Okay. I tell how many resolutions do you think are like people, and this is based on like
Okay.
survey data, so and random survey data, but like at the end of the year, like how many what percentage of resolutions do you think people stick to or succeed?
Oh man. So I'm just gonna say, like, based on my own, I can't speak for everybody, but I could say like percentage, maybe like 10%.
10%. Yeah, 9 to 12%. That's what kind of what comes up. It's about
That was a total
10%.
guess.
After a week, so January 7th, like almost a quarter, 1 in 3 have quit, or 1 in 4 have quit after a week.
Wow.
And after a month, so come February, that number goes up to more than 40%. 43% quit after a month. And then after a year, it goes up to 90%. And so that's the reality. So many, many people, majority of people, it's not clear, but 60, maybe upwards of 70% of people make resolutions. A lot. I know, I've done this before. Some years I just say, what's the
Yeah.
point?
Oh man.
Why am I setting myself up for disappointment?
Well, that,
It's better just left unsaid.
I know. Like, how do we? Like, I was just gonna ask, like, what do you think that's about? Like, is it like? Because I can remember being younger, like, oh yeah, New Year's Eve, like, Happy New Year. All right, I'm gonna do this, and that, and like, not even a minute goes by, I'm right back to whatever it is I'm doing.
Well, let me ask you this: have you had a year or a resolution in the past where you felt like you were successful? Can you think
What?
of one?
I'm gonna say that I actually stopped resolutions because I was always like, they never stuck. They never. It was. I never.
That's right.
And I don't even know what age is when I stopped, but I remember when I was younger, like maybe in high school or something. I remember I believed in it, and then I just, the results were always. I never could be consistent with the resolution. But then when I learned about commitment, but even then I never made resolutions. I don't know. I just stopped because they never came to. So
Because it never
yeah.
came true. So I sort of stopped making resolutions too. Although I'm gonna get back to making resolutions, like we'll get back to that. But something like you said earlier, like making time to reflect on what I'm grateful for. I think that's a really good resolution versus, well, maybe this is a good point to make. Like a resolution is a
Hmm.
goal. I'll just say that. A resolution is a goal. So this really gets into a conversation about like setting
Hmm.
goals for yourself and what a goal could look like. I don't want to say should look like, but there are that I think you'll have a higher likelihood of succeeding depending on how you frame the goal. And it really gets back to what we said in the last episode when we were talking about motivation.
I believe. I think you're right. I think in my mind, I was just thinking, man. I think resolution is just a fancy word for, like you said, a goal, a commitment. Something that you really want. And I think over the years, I think if you use resolution during the New Year's, I mean, some people, me, including myself, might be like, "Oh, I don't want to set any resolutions because I'm not gonna, they're not gonna come true, or I'm not gonna accomplish them." So I think by saying it's just a
Mm.
goal, and it is, I agree, it totally is just a goal. Um, Maybe that is it. The way the wording, might change, and because resolution, like I said, it's like people set these resolutions and they don't ever finish or they don't complete them. So I don't know. Does that answer
Right?
your question a little bit?
What are the resolutions people are
Mm.
making? I looked this
Oh
up
wow,
too.
yeah.
Like the most common resolution is I want to lose
Uh,
weight
um,
or I want to exercise more. Those are the top two by far. Like I think that encompasses almost half of resolutions is I want to lose weight, I want to exercise more. And
right,
okay, those are reasonable
right.
goals. Then why are people failing? Why are they not keeping them? I think that's the question.
Right. That'd be interesting. Let's talk about that. What do you think it is? Is it because, and I don't know if we're gonna get to this, but in my mind, I learned about SMART goals, right? Like like it's the
Yes. Yes, I was going to talk about this
yeah.
too.
I was thinking. Well, that's what I know now. I think when I before it's it I my opinion on why people don't follow through is they don't have the plan. Because when you make a broad statement like, okay, like I'm one of
Mm.
those people. Oh, I want to lose weight this year, or I'm gonna, I'm gonna, well, I want to exercise more. I don't think I have a designed plan, like a structure. I think is what that might happen.
That's it.
That might be one of the reasons.
So I think even more broadly, like, as to say this, people focus on the result and not
Mm.
on the process. So when you say they don't have a plan, I totally agree. Like, the plan is the process by which you achieve the result. And when you focus on the result itself, it's the story I told in the second episode, where I wanted to lose weight for my wedding pictures. So that was the result. I wanted to lose weight for
Mm.
my wedding pictures. And then I designed behaviors. I ate half the food I was eating. I forced myself to run every day that were unsustainable because I didn't enjoy them at all. They felt like restrictions and punishments because they were. And they were designed that way because I was trying to get a quick result. And so at the end of when I finally got the results, then those behaviors didn't last, and then the results went away,
Yeah.
right away. So I think a plan is that. I think a plan is focusing on but even before that, I would go back to what we talked about last episode, which is your goals in terms of your aspirational
Mm.
self-identity. So it's like, why do you want to lose weight?
Mm.
You know,
Right.
do you want to lose weight? And I do this with patients, right? And like health coaches and coaches will do this, where we ask, it's like a little kid asking why, and then they say something, and then why, and then they say something. So I give you an example. So somebody says, I want to lose weight. Why? Because I want to look better in my clothes. Why? Because when I look better, I feel better about myself.
Mm.
Why? Because I feel like I deserve to feel good. I'm a great I'm a great person inside, so I should feel good on the outside too. And why?
It's a,
Because I love myself,
yeah.
And then what emerged from there was somebody who wants to look good in their clothes to somebody who wants to love themselves. And now when I focus on that, I want to be someone who loves myself. Am I going to design behaviors that are punishments if I really?
Right. No. Right. That's the quick answer would be no. It's almost like this process of peeling the onion, right? You kind of like taking all the layers off of from the superficial reason, right? To like what's the intrinsic motivation there, right?
I want to go back to something you said at the beginning, which was just like kind of what you said to your daughters about Christmas, and then you said, and not just like today or this time of year, but something we should be doing every day. And it made me think about how a New Year's resolution, could be an opportunity to set an intention for how you want to live, as opposed
Mm.
to like a goal, like this result,
Mm, yeah.
I'm going to lose weight, or even I'm going to exercise, because that, that's not a bad
I know.
goal, but it kind
Yeah.
of, it doesn't, why do you want to exercise? What's your intention for exercising?
Right, 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 right. The why has got to be bigger than any other thing because that's what's going to drive you to go exercise.
That's right.
It's almost like who you're becoming. Like who are you?
Mm,
Who are you becoming, and who do you want to become?
mm,
It's like that's the question that you got to ask. I mean, I feel like that'd be a great question to ask myself. Like, who am I becoming? Who do I want to be?
why don't you answer it?
Um, Obviously, I think for me, it's just trying to be the best version of myself. I know that's thrown a lot around a lot, but for me, being someone who is healthy is really important to me because it's been such a challenge. It's like one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life. So, and I mean that in the mental capacity, the physical capacity, spiritual
Mm,
capacity. You know what I mean? Where I'm the best version and the most healthiest ever, and it's a challenge, man. And sometimes it even seems almost so big and grand to have a goal like
mm,
that. Um, but I mean, that's how I think that's how I would answer it. It's just trying to, like this podcast is such a great tool for my mental capacity in the sense that, it helps me, kind of get out get out my thoughts on things that that I can't have these conversations with
yeah.
everybody. And then I am also blessed with having a doctor
Mm,
as my co-host. So it's like it's a complete blessing for me.
mm,
And then on top of that, I feel like it's nice to have someone that that's also challenged by certain things, and to be able to not only sort of share the challenges of life and the challenges of being a father and the
mm,
challenges of staying healthy, but it's also great that there's tools, that we can share with
mm.
each other to help sort of get us to that, or get me to that best version, or that, you
Yeah.
know, that best, actually, yeah, that best version of myself. So, yeah, I think that's how I would answer that
Okay.
question.
Well, and actually, in that, I heard something we've talked about when we talked about starting this, which is just normalizing how how people, including us, struggle with this. Struggle with
Yeah.
maintaining healthy lifestyle and by normalizing it, I mean understanding that it's one universal that I think everyone wants to be healthy, and it's almost universal as they're saying that people make have all sorts of goals for themselves, and most of those goals unfortunately don't succeed. And what we want to get into is, yeah, like why don't they succeed and how might you be more successful?
Mhm.
Yeah. This week, like, and just now you said, like, rooting yourself in your why, having a really big why, and really understanding that, having that being meaningful to you. And I put those things up, like on my bathroom mirror. I put pictures of my kids up every morning when I'm brushing my teeth. Like, I look up and I see them, and I have little things I've written for myself
That's
on my
awesome.
bathroom mirror,
See,
you
like
know?
that's yeah, I think that's a great thing. That's a great idea. I was thinking, man, I might take that out of. But this is what I enjoy about this is that we're able to like, this is what I do, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a great idea. Um,
It wasn't always that way.
because I think
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
right,
What you're saying, you
yeah.
think?
No, I was just thinking that this is something like that. This is what I enjoy the most about our talks is that we really are like it's like a it's like a smorgasbord of like feasting of like, oh man, I'm gonna try that.
That's
And
right.
obviously you have to have the goal of wanting to be healthy. Like if you're not in that mindset yet with like where you really care about, living longer, then it's a lot harder for you to think of these tools as
Mm,
like helpful. Like some people aren't motivated by, well, maybe people don't have kids.
yeah.
Some people don't have kids, so they don't really have that same goal of like, oh, I want to do this for my kids. But to some degree, some people want to look healthy. They want to feel healthy, they want to look a certain way. And, so,
Well, Po, one thing I
um,
do anytime I meet a new patient, in my clinic, when I meet a new patient, I ask them this question: why do you want to be healthy? And I've never had, I mean, it does catch some people off guard. Um, their doctor's not usually asking them that. Doctor, I don't want to be healthy. They pause and they think about it, and they have various reasons that they then tell me. Some are more reflective than others, but I tell you, it's not just. I mean, the big one. There is a big one. I want to be around for my kids. I almost assume that when I'm like talking to a parent, but I let them say it, or they want to be healthy for their kids, or they want to be around for their grandkids. Um, and I hear people who have say that they don't want to live this way anymore. Like that, it comes to a point where the amount of pain and suffering is enough, where they're like, enough is enough. Like I can't go on this way. That comes up. I also hear people who are very independent. They like to travel, for example, and they look to their future and they say, I want to keep doing these things. I want to keep, and you know, oftentimes it is, if they're single, they think about this more maybe, or they don't have kids, they think about this more, because what's the best form of life insurance is having children. I don't know if that's true, but I hope that's true. That's why I've had 3. That's why you've had 4. No. Um,
yeah.
but people think about that. They think about their independence. They may have experience taking care of a frail or elderly relative who has frailty. Um, and they've
Mm,
seen that. They've
yeah.
seen that, and they're like, I don't want that. Or they've seen people manage chronic disease later in life, go on dialysis, and they're like, I don't want that. Diabetes runs in my family, and I don't want that. And so these are the things that come out. But even if they're not readily aware of that, that's what I was telling you last episode. Like we can use questioning, like motivational interviewing. You can ask provocative questions to get people to understand what that underlying motivation might be. Like, what's important to you in your life? Oh, I really like traveling. Oh, I really like spending time with friends. Oh, I really, you know, and I want to keep, and then you ask them, like, you want to keep doing those things? Yeah, I want to keep doing those things as long as possible. People want, we say in lifestyle medicine worlds, it's not just about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about in the last episode about, the idea of thinking that you can live to like 90,
Mm,
maybe 100 years old.
mm,
Like I never thought about that, and so that's definitely a goal. Like I've seen Alzheimer's, I've seen, my grandfather had Alzheimer's, my
oh,
grandmother had diabetes. So,
yes.
and definitely can be driven by fear.
Yeah.
Like you could use that as a way to drive that goal. But when I was asked the question of like how old do I want to, or well, I think it was phrased like how what age do you want to pass at or something like
Yeah.
that, and then 2 years prior to that, what is your quality of life? And I'd never been asked that question before, and I think I said like maybe 50s or 60s
You said
was what I
that.
was thinking,
You
and
said
then
last episode. You
yeah,
said 55 or something like that,
yeah, and that's not right. and
which
and
is very young.
after I
That's in
it
14.
really
That's in
is
14 years, Po.
right, right. And so that's exactly what I was thinking of, and now I'm kind of like thinking, you know what, and then 2 years prior to that would be what, 53. So what quality of life would I be? And then and in that and that I kind of had to really really reflect on that and think like, man, I want to live until like I'm 90 years old, if I could, you know
Yeah.
um but all those things can only happen and based on the decisions that I make today.
Yeah. I was
So
gonna say inherent in that question
um,
is like the 2 years prior. Like I think if you really think about it, like everyone would answer the same way. Like I want to be free of pain, free of suffering, independent. Like does anyone want to be debilitated? Does anybody want to be in pain? I don't think
no,
so. And and
no,
then if you could guarantee that at 88, then you would say, yeah, 90 sounds like a great. But it's interesting to me that you chose 55 because maybe inherent in that was that you this assumption that as you get older, you are going to experience more health problems because of what you've seen and maybe partly what you've experienced so far in life. And we're we're connected and we're having these conversations because that doesn't have to be, and you've decided that I want to
right.
consciously make the intention in my life is to lead a healthier life.
I'm just wondering, like, if in those moments, like when you're challenged with an old habit or an old, you know, uh, way of being, that you could literally check in and be like, is this my intention? Is this food item the intention that I want? Is this, you know what I mean? Like, very hard to practice,
Hmm.
very hard to practice. But I almost wonder if that's something to practice,
Well,
for a
I
resolution,
think
is
so.
being intentional with every decision.
How do you remind yourself in the moment? Like when you're faced with something you're addicted to, how do you pause and remind yourself that this may not be in line with your intention or your values? Um, that's why I remind myself of those things so often. That's why they're on my mirror. Because if I see them first thing in the
Yeah.
morning, and that's I think where meditation comes in too, because it's as we talked about last time. You give yourself that space, as you put it, and as Viktor Frankl
Yeah.
famously put it, that space between your reaction and your response, and you have to cultivate that ability, I would say, to create that space, because
Yeah.
the the
Extremely,
default,
extremely challenging to do.
it can be, although it, challenging. If Tell me about that. Why is it extremely challenging? I mean, I agree with you, but I also feel like you can cultivate that it's really comes out of just consistent practice, consistent effort. And then if you want consistent effort, it's what you said at the beginning. You said it isn't exactly what I want to be doing for your meditation. You said sometimes it's just 5 minutes. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my last couple of days where I've been sick, and normally I sit for 30, 40 minutes, and I could have done 5 minutes yesterday. I certainly can do 5, 10 minutes today after this call. Um, for any other reason than I know that it helps create that space. I got a little short tempered last night. I don't know, even remember now, some disagreement I had with my wife. And right after it happened, I caught myself. I was like, oh. And she even said to me, she said, "You're sick, and I think I think it's affecting you." and I and she said, "Now's not the best time
Thank
for
God
us
for
to
our
be having
wives.
this now's not the best time for us to be having this conversation." Ah. Would you say thank God for our wives?
Because they know us very
They
well.
know us very well.
Like,
That's right.
they know us very well. So it's like, my wife, she does those too. Like, you need to just chill out. She'll
Yeah.
say that.
That goes
Um,
back to focusing
but
on the
anyways, yes.
process. That goes back to focusing on the process, right? So, I, as opposed to the results, almost like the results are a side effect of consistent process.
That's what I was just thinking, like, it's really fine tuning your process. It's constantly working on your process. Like, okay, I got in 5 minutes. I get to work on being grateful for having 5 minutes versus being upset that I only had five
That's right.
minutes.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I mean? Because that's the challenging part that I was alluding to earlier about how it's challenging because in my mind I'm thinking, man, I should at least have 10 minutes, but I'm only doing 5 minutes at a time. But it's that process that's what the fine tuning should be, and constantly shaping it. It's like like you're creating
Mm-hmm.
that process. You know.
One way to do this, Poe, is to say, okay, I have a standard. I have an ideal and I have a standard. So ideal is I'm gonna do 30 minutes of meditation. But the standard in my life is that I do 5 minutes. So every day, ideal is not
Mm.
possible. But standard is the standard in my life. Like that's non-negotiable. And 5 minutes should be non-negotiable. Unless there's think about that too. You said it when you said when I asked you when are you going to do meditation, you said in the morning in my bed. And I've done that a couple times since we talked because um if nothing else, I'm like, okay, well at least now I'm getting a few minutes of stillness where I'm focusing on my breath and regardless of what happens the rest of today, because maybe I'm getting up late or maybe I'm sick. There are reasons why I'm telling myself the ideal is not going to happen. And if you can have a standard, so your standard for exercise might be, you know, maybe that you want to run for an hour 3 times a week or something like that. But your standard might be that I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk. So if I don't do anything else, like
Ah,
at the end of the day, did I exercise? Oh, I didn't get around to it, or something happened, and it's 9:30. I still have time to take that 10-minute walk. So if your why
that's a great
is
one. Yeah.
if your why is really your lighthouse, if it's really guiding you, then you delineate your ideal situation, which ideal shouldn't be unachievable. Ideal should be like, this is what I can do most days. I've designed the behavior around something that is totally doable for me, which I think gets into a conversation. You mentioned SMART goals. So maybe we can talk about that. Do you
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
do
yeah,
you
yeah,
remember
yeah. That's a good one.
you've done this probably in the immersions you've done?
Yes, yes, yes. Um, Specific,
That's right.
right? Specific, measurable, attainable or achievable.
Uh-huh.
Um, oh man, I'm kind of
Relevant.
blanking on our relevant.
Relevant.
Thank you. And time uh
Time
sensitive or
time
time
bound. Yeah, time
measurement,
bound or yeah,
time bound.
time bound.
Yeah.
Yeah. So specific be that I
What's
mean,
an example? What's an example of specific?
yeah, so I'm not just I'm going to exercise. It's I'm going to go for a 20-minute walk on after breakfast on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. So specific that I've decided when I'm going to do it, how long it's going to be, and yeah, like as specific as possible, you know? Then you can
Yeah.
schedule it. Then it can be, specifically scheduled in your calendar or you've allotted time for it. Because if the less specific it is, the less likely you
The
are
more, yeah,
to do it. You'll be like, I'm going to exercise tomorrow.
yeah,
I'm going to exercise 3 times next week. And then Thursday comes around and it's like, I didn't I didn't do anything. What am I going to do today? I don't know. Versus
yeah,
like Monday morning, I
yeah.
know 20 minutes. That's my goal. I set it. And yeah, that's specific. And you can be specific. It could be for like, I'm going to meal prep all my breakfasts for next week on Sunday. Um, that to start off, because the other thing about this is you don't want to start off necessarily with a really insurmountable. You never want to have an insurmountable goal, and you don't want to start off with something that's really overwhelming or too much. So it can
Mm-hmm.
be that if your goal is to meal prep all your meals, you might start by just meal prepping your breakfast, or you might start by just meal prepping a meal. I'm going to meal prep like breakfast for tomorrow, just so you start getting in the hang of. This is when we talk about focusing on the process. Then you start understanding, like, well, what do I need to, I need to like figure out what I'm going to make. So I need recipes. And then you start realizing, you're like, oh, ideally they should be recipes that can keep in the fridge for 5 or 6 days. And ideally they should be things that I enjoy. And ideally it should be something that doesn't take too long to put together. And initially it might take longer, and that's part of the learning. But then you suddenly you prepped one meal and you're like, okay, could I prep like breakfast for the next 4 days? Or
Gotcha.
and you're yeah.
Yeah.
So you start off small, and your
And
goal
then
should be specific.
got it. And then with measurable, it's measurable would be like, the um that specific goal should be something that you can measure. So like you said, you kind of went over it about how five times
That's right.
a week I'm going to be meal prepping for breakfasts. You know what I mean? Or the
Hmm.
breakfast would be the meal that I'm going to be. And you can even get down to like the time of day you're going to do it,
That's right.
right? So,
Well, the measurable part
on
is the
Sundays
measurable
at
part
5
is
p.m.
the measurable part is like, did I do it or not? So if I set out a goal of walking 3 times a week, then how many times did I walk on those 3 days? And that gets into like, are you tracking? I'm not the
Mm-hmm.
best at tracking, although for Christmas I got this journal, which is like a habit tracker, which I'm going to start using. I don't know. We'll see how that works. But
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
tracking is is saying like, okay, I'm going to just take stock in whether or not I did it. Because if you do it, like, that's where we'll get to the T, which is time bound, but you decide you're going to do this for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever. And then you're going to take stock. You're going to look back and you're going to say, okay, my goal was to walk 3 times a week, and over the last 2 weeks, I hit that every time. Then now is my opportunity to make a new goal. And I going to now, maybe I'm going to do it 4 times a week, or now maybe it's going to be a 25-minute walk, because 20 minutes actually, like, half the time I was going for longer. Again, I made my standard 20 minutes, but maybe it could be 30 minutes, but you won't know, versus like, oh, I didn't go at all. Well, why didn't I go at all? It's like, maybe that's not actually, after breakfast is a really crazy time. Like, my kids are, I have to take my
Yeah.
kids to school. Like, it's the worst time. Like, why did I pick that? When I should be doing it is like right after dinner. And so this is how you iterate. I told you in text message a couple of days ago, I said, I'm going to have you share how because you set a meditation goal. You said, I'm going to do 10 minutes every morning when I get up. And then you set an exercise goal too. What was your exercise goal? I don't remember from the last episode.
It was like 15 minutes a day. I think it was 15 minutes on Monday, Tuesdays, and then Thursdays.
No, no, no.
It
It
was
was
like getting on the
it, it
bike
was
for
it was it was I thought it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, because your really busy days are at work are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Is that
yeah,
right?
the days that when I'm doubles. Yeah.
That's
Yes.
right. So now's an opportunity for us to reflect. Did you do it or not? And maybe you're not even sure because you weren't tracking it.
You know what? I was not tracking, and that's what's interesting is as you were talking about, I was like, man, I just got a calendar for next year. I think part of what I should do is, and that works for me, is like getting out here in the garage, putting the X after I
Mm,
do it, the habit of, okay, boom, I
mm-hmm.
did it. And that way I can look at the
There
progression,
you
you know,
go.
because it was challenging because there was times when I get home late and I chose sleep
Sure.
versus getting up and coming to the, and I've been in modes where I'm like totally committed, totally like on fire, and just being like, man, I'm knocking these out. And just these last few weeks has just been. We're gonna get into that later. I'll ask you about that later. But I'm like thinking, man, what's going on, man? Because it's like I'm not. I just I wasn't feeling like I was. Usually when I'm really motivated, I'm really gung ho, like But
Let's finish
the
talking about
last few,
sparkles, and then I wanna explore that with you for the end for the time we
yeah,
have left.
right. But to answer your question, I did, but I wasn't consistent.
Okay.
That's what I should say. And
You
part of
weren't
it because I
tracking.
wasn't tracking. Like I wasn't. There's no method of
Okay.
me
So
tracking it.
that inherent
Yeah.
in this, you being successful, is like coming up with a method for you to track. And ideally, now that, we're talking regularly and working together, it should be a method of tracking that helps with your accountability. So I didn't get the
Right.
invite on the Apple Watch to be your to be your watch friend.
Really?
Did you send it to me?
That's interesting.
I
I
You
did
don't
send
show
it.
up on my
Yeah,
list. Oh,
I did send it via
oh,
I think it
waiting
was like
your
a.
reply. Oh, I never replied, Poe. That's the
Uh,
problem. Okay, now, now we have. Now you're on. Yeah, now you're on there. Okay, all right.
all right. So
Poe, how's Poe doing today? Poe, it says you.
I have.
Poe, are you wearing your
I'm
watch
not.
today? It says you've moved 0 feet.
Literally have not put it on. So, um,
That's right. I've done that.
yeah.
I do that.
Well, I take it off at night. I don't. I charge it at night. Just a heads up. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
same,
so measurable. What's
same,
next?
same, same.
Attainable. Let's go to attainable.
Yeah, so measurable, attainable. Attainable is that like it's a goal that you set for yourself that's actually going to be achievable, attainable, achievable.
Yeah,
So you're not saying I'm going to run
a marathon.
an hour every day when when you haven't been running at all. You're going to say no, I'm going to go for a walk 20 minutes 3 times a week.
No.
Like that's where you start. You start small. And if you're not as you're measuring and if you're not doing it, make it ask yourself why you're not doing it. It's really the opportunity to troubleshoot. Like, is it the timing of it? Is it my environment? And is it that the task I've decided to do is not achievable or attainable? And why is it not achievable or attainable? Is it too difficult? Is right. Okay. And then R is relevant, which we already talked a lot about, but it should sort of get back to your aspirational self-identity, your why, and ideally, like you should pick something that's meaningful to you. It should be meaningful on that deeper personal level because you're more likely to, as you said, be motivated. Although we'll talk a little bit more about that sort of be motivated because there are many days when you just don't feel like
Yeah.
doing something. There's many days when I just don't feel like doing something.
Yeah.
And I've learned that, if I just rely on my feelings,
Nothing.
then I'm not going to do a lot of
Right.
things. And actually I'm going to feel worse. So, which I heard you say last time. You said, I've never had a bout of exercise where I didn't feel better at the end. But how did you feel before you started? It's almost irrelevant. You just sometimes have to, I don't say force yourself, but you have to get out of your head.
Especially in the
You just have to get out of your head and
I think
do.
in the beginning stages of the goal or the resolution or the
That's
commitment,
it.
it's gonna be like that. I've that's what I've learned in my troubleshooting is that the first 2 weeks, I think, of any start off of something is I think it's the most challenging. And then once you get into that habit, I think it becomes more second nature.
Motivation is sort of this like waxing and waning, right? It goes up and down over time. And I would say before you start a new behavior, it's probably at its lowest. Why? Because you've never done that thing before. This is why we don't do most things that we think of. I have so many thoughts of things I could be doing, and guess what? I don't do most of them because it's different. It's right. Right? I could dream up like so many things, but I don't do most of them. I don't have motivation to do those things because I've never done them before. They're different than what I'm used to. And so you're right. So early on, you have to, and there are times where you do feel more motivated, right?
Yeah.
It might be because of a conversation you
Yeah.
had. It might be because it's New Year's.
Yeah.
So New Year's is a great example. We'll go back to resolutions because your motivation may be higher.
Right.
And so choosing the right goal and the right process, it's like, how do you harness that when you do have times of higher motivation? How do you harness it in a way where it's going to actually set you up for success in the future? Not like, okay, I can push myself and go to the gym 5 times this week and next week, but come January 15th, like I've stopped going.
Right.
And it's like, no, actually, how do I set up systems in my life or processes in my life where I'm going to, so maybe it's like when I have high motivation, I learn a new skill because I'm so motivated. So I learn like something I've been wanting to learn that's going to help me stay more physically active. Or I learn how to do meal prepping because I'm super motivated at the beginning of the year, such that come February, it's like, it's a pretty down-packed, easy process. I've learned recipes. So you use those periods of high motivation to actually set yourself up for success, to learn new skills, to develop systems in your life that will set up success for future.
Okay. Relevant. What's the next
That's what I say. You rely on that's why I say you rely on skill power and not willpower. You rely on skill power and not willpower.
And I can imagine that it feeds off each other because you know what I mean. Like there are days when you kind of don't, like we were just talking about. That's when the willpower will kick in, and then some days you're like, oh, I got it, but then do you think it's like a no? You think it's
No, totally.
okay?
I don't remember nodding my head. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, there's some days where your willpower will be, and there's some moments of the day where your willpower will be high. Willpower is like a battery, It's like in the morning I'm making really good decisions, and then at the end of a 16-hour shift,
100%.
I come home and there's pizza in the fridge.
100%.
Like,
yeah,
right?
Yes.
Then where the willpower is kind of it's nowhere to be found.
Willpower is asleep.
Willpower is asleep. I should be asleep, but I'm up on my phone, and because I lost all that willpower. So better to set up systems where it's like, oh, I put my phone. Oh, which by the way, have you moved? I'm curious. Have you moved your phone, or is it still next to your bed?
It's still next to my bed. That's part of my New Year's resolution.
Okay. Okay. Po, can I say that's one of the other downfalls of New Year's resolutions is it's the story you're like, oh, okay, I have until January 1st. Right. Now I can continue to do this thing that is not in my best interest because I'm going to do it January 1st. I mean, there's nothing terribly wrong with that. But on the other hand, it's the best way to get started is to just get started.
Right.
There's no moment like now, or there's no moment like the present.
Right. Yeah, I'm working on that.
Why are you waiting? Why are you waiting until New Year's? And this episode will be posted after New Year's. So why are you waiting till New Year's to move your phone? What's the rationale? I want to know. Everyone wants
right
to.
Now, I'm not really. I think I'm not intentionally trying to do it at the moment. Like I get home, I'm more in my habits. I'm not saying it's a resolution. I'm just joking about the resolution part. I think it's just something that I haven't. Okay. It's just something that I haven't.
You haven't gotten
exactly.
To it yet.
That's really what it is, and I agree. I think it is just it's just a choice of like plugging it somewhere else, because like last night I was up late last night. Like last night, that was bad because I mean I didn't go to bed till like 2 in the morning, and that was just from like you know um, watching TV, watching a documentary, and then just so. But I do plan on removing my cell phone. I mean, I don't think I have an issue with it. It's just last night was like, man, this is because I was thinking like you're up late too. I'm thinking, man, I bet you he's doing the same thing.
Uh, I yeah, I yeah, with this, yeah. Here's what I would say. You said like when you don't feel well. Remember, I heard you say at the beginning of the episode. You said when I don't feel well, when you don't feel well,
Yeah,
it makes everything else harder. I would say the same thing that I've learned from my personal experience, and now I tell all the people I work with is when you don't sleep well, it makes all the other decisions and behaviors you want to do harder, and it makes all your interactions potentially more challenging just because when you don't sleep well, you don't feel well. And, we're talking about willpower. You certainly have less willpower when you
yeah,
don't sleep well. We're talking about awareness. You're more reactive.
yeah.
I am. Most people are more reactive when they don't sleep well. So,
On that note, I'm doing a sleep study. I got to sign up for
oh,
yeah. So I'm
okay.
gonna be looking into. I've had been diagnosed with it in the past, but that's one option too that I'm gonna have.
Sleep apnea.
Yes, is sleep apnea. So, anyways,
Have you been diagnosed with sleep
yes,
apnea in the past,
yes, I
Poe?
have. I haven't
And
been.
did they recommend a breathing machine,
Yes,
CPAP
yes, a
machine?
CPAP machine.
But you don't
I
use
don't
one.
use one currently. Yeah, I was years
Okay.
ago, and then moving and all this stuff, and I don't even know where that machine is. So now I'm gonna be going back through it,
Oh, good.
and it's the one where you go to the clinic and that you sleep there, and then they hook you up. It's not the one with the take home machine. I don't know if there's a difference, but I got the paperwork. I'm gonna sign up for that. But anyways, yeah, I agree. The sleeping is something that I did. It was just last night. I find most days I fall asleep right away. That's the other thing. When I get off
Hmm.
from work, I don't really. When I'm tired, I don't even spend time on the scrolling. Like I just plug it in and then just fall asleep. But there are nights when I
Yeah.
should definitely be putting it away. So, but anyways, let's.
Well, that goes back to what I mentioned that example because that is using skill power versus willpower. So if your phone lives in another room and you need to charge it and there's no charger next to your bed, or that your routine is I come home, I go put my phone in that to bed in that other room, then you don't have to worry about your willpower because when it's right next to my bed, it doesn't matter. I might get up in the middle of the night to pee, and
Mm,
then it's just sitting there, and I'm like, wonder what's happened in the world
yeah,
since I went to bed 3 hours
yeah.
ago. I wonder who's sharing stories, like
Mm,
whatever. And so now that temptation, if you can remove it,
yeah,
then okay. And then yeah, last that's relevant, and then T is time bound. So T is like deciding I'm going to do this for 2 weeks. Usually when you're making the goal, you decide like what's the point in which I'm going to reevaluate this. And I say early on, you reevaluate pretty early, frequently.
mm,
So you might only make a goal for a week because you really want to catch if you're doing it or not. And if you're not doing it, ask yourself why. Why am I not doing it? What am I doing instead? Is this the right goal for me? Am I just lost in my thoughts? You know, and so that we'll do that. We'll do that with you. But okay, so you want to talk a little bit more about that, about your lack of motivation, or
yeah, yeah. We had a
tell me about
we had a
that.
discussion last week about it. I think it might have been in the episode, but I was talking about mental health and feeling depressed. Like I actually had to look up like depression. Like I've never been diagnosed with depression or done any of that. I've
Hmm.
never been diagnosed, but I'm noticing this lack.
Oh, that's right. I sent you a
Yes,
questionnaire
yes, and I did it.
to do, which we use. Okay,
Hold on, I
that's the PHQ-9.
yeah, I'm trying to think if I still have it
It's
saved.
called the Patient Health Questionnaire, and it's a 9-question inventory or survey that we use in primary care. or in psychiatry or in mental health, to basically get diagnosis, and then also quantifies the degree of symptoms, and then we can monitor symptom severity. So what you did it?
Yeah, and I can't find the test score, but was it like 1 out of 10? Or I can't remember the actual. Hold on.
No, it's a higher score because each question is like on a there's 4 options. So like there'll be a question over the past 2 weeks. Well, why don't we just do it right now? I'll ask you the
Okay.
questions. Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it.
You want to take your okay. Okay. So how often have you been bothered by the following over the past 2 weeks? And the first is little interest or pleasure in doing things. And the answers can be not at all, several days, more than half the days, or nearly every day. So that'll be the answer choice for every item. So the first one again is little interest or pleasure in doing things. And for our listeners, I should say, you can certainly score yourself, and anyone who has mental health issues or struggling with their mental health, encourage you to, you should seek out the help of a professional. Either talk to you or seek out the help of a therapist or a counselor. Okay, so little interest or pleasure in doing things.
And the scale degree or something like that, right? Or is it?
No, it's not at all.
Okay.
Several days. So this is how many days in the last 2 weeks? Not at all. Several days. More than half the days. So more than 7 days.
Several days.
Or nearly every day.
I'll say several days.
Several days. Okay. Feeling down, depressed, or hopeless?
Not at all. I would say I do feel down occasionally. I can't say every day, but several days, right? That's the one that's likely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trouble falling or staying asleep or sleeping too much?
Last 2 weeks, several days.
Okay. Feeling tired or having little energy?
I'll say several days.
Okay. Poor appetite or overeating?
Yes, several days.
Yes. Several days?
Yes.
So less than half the days.
Yeah.
Okay. Feeling bad about yourself, or that you are a failure, or that you've let yourself or your family down?
Not at all.
Trouble concentrating on things such as reading the newspaper or watching TV?
More than half the days.
Moving or speaking so slowly that other people could have noticed, or
not at all.
So fidgety and restless, okay, that you are moving a lot more than normal. Okay. Having any thoughts that you would be better off dead, or thoughts of hurting yourself in some way?
Not at all.
A little different, but how difficult these problems made it to do work, take care of things at home, or get along with other people? And this isn't included in the score, but it's just a way that we kind of gauge the impact that it's had. And then you could say not at all, somewhat difficult, very difficult, or extremely difficult.
Not at all.
Okay.
What I was thinking, I remember seeing that when I first did it.
Okay. It is 27 points, right? So less than 4, we say, is kind of 7, 9 suggests mild depression. Sort of treatment, like usually we won't use a medication if the score is that. I mean, and the last question I think emphasized it a lot, which is that it's not really having an impact on your life, although maybe to some degree it is, because that's why you brought it up.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you're not in a headspace or a place where you can do or kind of function as well as you're able to function.
Exactly.
I think your score is is probably many, many, many people. I think most people, if we were to, especially in the last couple of years, if we're to take this questionnaire of most people, first of all, it's I don't know depression and anxiety across the world really, but certainly in the United States, and mild depression. I don't say it's universally true, but it's very, very common. Like if not more moderate or severe depression. So what you're experiencing, I don't think it's abnormal. You know,
Gotcha.
that is to normalize it. I think what you're experiencing is something that so many people experience. The other thing to point out is that this is a one number at one point in time. So the utility of this is to say, okay, let's check this number in 2 weeks, or let's just this number, knowing now that you have a score of 7, like it'd be useful to periodically check in on this. And the next time you meet with your doctor, your primary
Hmm.
doctor, to sort of say, oh, I just wanted you to know I did this questionnaire and I have, unless you tell your doctor that you're having some symptoms, oftentimes they won't even prompt you to answer this type of questionnaire. So um, you don't have to do that on your doctor's radar,
Yeah.
where they're going to kind of periodically check in with you on it. Then they could put, mild depression in your chart, and that could follow over time. Knowing this now about that we're talking, like this is something I'll probably check in with you either on the podcast or just when we talk, because like I've shared openly, I have a history of depression, and it like anything else, it waxes and wanes. And so that's why this number is helpful, because you can sort of say, well, it's a 7 now, and then a month from now it's a 4, and then
I'm glad we did that.
suddenly something happens in my life and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad we did it too.
But that's overall, and I just think that this is part of the process of getting to that better self. So
Well, I want to point that out, Poe. I think one of the ways, and we're talking all about resolutions and why resolutions fail or succeed, and how to make maybe good if that's a word, but like how to make resolutions that are more likely to succeed. And um, underlying all that is physically, as you said, like when you don't feel good physically, that affects your ability to make changes and to do things. But mentally too,
mm,
just as important, if not more important, how you feel mentally, that suddenly, not suddenly, that too. Because if you're not feeling good mentally, if you're not in the right headspace, then it's going to make everything else more you're going to have. So again, a call to action that you should be mindful of your physical and also, very importantly, your mental health, because before you can actually make change in your life, those things need to be supported and
right.
and stay.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't do that self check. I feel like that's a very important tool to be able to sort of take an inventory of your mental health. You know what I mean? Because that's one thing that always
Absolutely.
goes without say, like saying, like, and even in the fitness world, they don't really talk about that. Like if you really think about it,
That's right.
there's nothing. It's all about, oh, we got to get it, or let's go. Like all gas, no brakes, and you know what I mean. Let's hit
Hmm.
that. Let's hit those reps. But nobody's ever talking about, like, man, how's it going at home, or what's going on at work, or how's your mental health going. So I think that's kind of cool that we kind of talk about that now. And great that it's going into the new year and kind of use that, like you said, the momentum of, you know, like everybody's in
Yeah.
that space of, okay, what's coming, what's next year, how can I set myself up this year and, hit some of the goals that I have, so.
Yeah. I mean, mental health is probably the one of the biggest epidemics in society right now. And the life expectancy just went down again. Expected life expectancy in the United States went down again, um, in 2022. and it's like 3 years in a row, right, that it's dropping,
Tell me about
and
that.
that we've lost like all the gains that we've made.
I've never heard of that. Can you
Yeah,
talk more about
so
that?
I've been
Because
thinking,
that's something I don't think about
sure.
that. I'm wondering, I bet you some people in our audience
Well,
might not think about that as well.
so the life in globally too, every year, and it's, if you look, it's sort of been on this uptrend for many years, for decades, really, like since the 60s. um the average life in the United States was about 1960 was about 69.7 years.
Wow.
And then 2019, it was 78.79, or about 78.8 years, right? And then in 2020, it dropped for the first time in all that time. It had gone up every year, and it has dropped a little bit every, like this year. I think it dropped another 6 months, and it's different for men and women. Women tend to live longer than men. That's true across the world. Um, yeah, it drops. Um, Women in the United States, it dropped zero point 0.8 years, from 79.9 years in 2020 to 79.1 in 2021. So this is for 2021, right? We have life expectancy for 2021. And that's the lowest level it's been since 1996.
What do you think it's about?
You're right. So a lot about this, and the CDC about this, that a lot of it is they're attributing it mostly to two things. Although I would say there's there so COVID-19 deaths. They say contribute for about 75% of the decline from 2019 to 2020, and about half the decline from 2020 to 2021. And then about 15% of the deaths can be attributed to unintentional injury deaths. And in the United States, a lot of that is being driven by overdose from drug use, even prescription narcotic use. That has unfortunately skyrocketed. The fact that so much of the death is attributable to COVID, I think, isn't the whole story, though, because who dies from COVID? We have, for example, we have vaccines, and even if you're unvaccinated, like early on, we saw that you were much more likely to die if you had certain medical comorbidities, if you had metabolic disease, diabetes, heart disease. We also saw that there's just a study that came out last week that if you don't exercise, and this is from data from the last 2 years, or since the start of the pandemic, those that didn't exercise versus those that met the exercise guidelines, there's a 90% increased risk of dying from COVID, 91% increased risk. So actually, like, is COVID attributable? Well, COVID is the mechanism by which people are dying, but the underlying reason is because of unhealthy lifestyle, because most of those diseases, metabolic disease, heart disease, are also driven by lifestyle. And you can get into why people have unhealthy lifestyle. For some people, it's not just a question of the choices they're making. They may not have access to healthy food. They may not have access to safe spaces to exercise. They may be in a situation where that's not even possible. But regardless, it speaks to those factors, diet and nutrition, movement, stress, those things. And I can tell you firsthand, from seeing so many patients over the last few years and knowing just so many people's lifestyle habits are suffering. I consultations with patients over the last couple of years where they will tell me just the weight has gone up, or diabetes control is not as good, or this thing because of the pandemic. Like it and not that that's not a a huge legitimate thing that is happening and has happened to all of us. So many people, though, their lifestyle habits have backtracked, backslid. Gyms closed, and I hear that a lot. I stopped exercising because my gym closed. And so I think more thoughtful analysis will probably come is our lifestyle habits. And we know like alcohol consumption has gone up and did go up considerably during the pandemic, for example. So is lifestyle. A big part of this is why we started this show,
Right.
why we started this podcast, is that so many people are struggling with this. So much so that people are living less time. And on average, this generation, people born today, they're less, they're going to live
That's wild.
shorter lives on average.
Yeah, that's a very
Than if
very wild number. Like, to know that our life expectancy has gone down since the 60s. Like, that was the last time it was that low.
Well, no, it's gone up considerably since the 60s, but in the last 3 years we've lost all the gains of the last 25 years.
Got it.
Right? So not most, but about half the extra life that we've gained since 1960, that is for poor quality of life. Like, people are living longer, but they're not necessarily living longer with good quality of life. So half the time people are living longer, but they're living with pain, chronic disease, debility. And because we've gotten very good at extending life, well, not good enough that now the last few years life expectancy has gone down, but we've gotten pretty good at it. But like I said earlier, it's not just about adding years to your life, it's about adding life to your years.
Gotcha.
It's about adding life to your years. So life expectancy has gone down. Doesn't mean as an individual your life expectancy can go up by the choices you make and the habits that you form and more fulfilling life.
And that's what it's about. It's your quality of life, right?
It's the quality of life. That's what people want.
Yeah.
That's what people want. People don't. That's why you answered that question when they asked you, when do you expect that you're going to die? You said at 55. Because built into that was like my quality of life. It's not going to be a life that I necessarily want to live. Or I don't know. Do you think that? I don't know, actually. Do you think that's what was going on in your head?
Most likely, yeah, because if it's years, I mean, like I said, it was a question that I've never thought of, I mean, and then when they asked 2 years prior to to your, demise, what is your quality of life? And, my experiences of seeing people in my family have passed away at a young age. So it was like, that was my standard, then
That's right.
that was the standard. So
that's right.
But now, now it's different, like I really do want to live a lot longer. So, just trying to implement some of our, some of our tools that we've discussed,
So what's a goal you want to make for the coming week? What's a resolution you want to make?
Man. I don't know.
I mean, how do you feel with the meditation?
I do 5 minutes a day, it's something that I can do. It's just practicing it on a regular basis would be something that I need
right.
like trigger, like things that I think I could definitely do more 10, but to me, it's like, I'm just glad I'm doing 5 minutes, but I think I need to stretch and kind of make the time to do it.
You said something we think about a lot in kind of creating behaviors, which is, you said you need a trigger or a cue,
Yeah,
something to prompt you. And what do you think that might be? You know, for me, for many years, it was when I got home, I pulled to the side of the road
Mm.
and did it in my car for 10 minutes. And the cue was really just getting home and being in my car. That worked really well for me.
At work in the parking lot before I go in.
Oh, yeah, I'm not suggesting you do that
Yeah.
necessarily, but I want you to think, like, what is your. This gets back to being specific about it, too.
Right.
Like, when am I going to do it? And then how do I set up my environment so that I'm successful? Like, how do I prompt myself?
I'm almost wondering.
You can set
Yeah, an alarm, right? Yeah. I was just gonna say maybe.
You can set an alarm on your phone.
Yeah, which is not supposed to be next to me in the morning. Which, but I think the goal should be specific to meditating at least 5 to 10 minutes a day, every day. And I like to do it in the morning because I always feel like the morning is even working out. I would enjoy working out in the morning, but I feel like the first thing I should do when I wake up is like a 10 to 15 minute or 5 to 10 minute quiet time, or like the meditation time. But I think, yeah, maybe setting an alarm. When I set up the alarm, I also have the clock that you got for me.
I got you.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
this one.
Yes.
Hold on. I can't. It's plugged in.
It's all good.
But
I saw that.
I got you the same one. I got you the same one that I have. Can't see it. It's one of these. Yeah, I can't show it on camera. It's one of these daylight alarm clocks that we talked about last time. And then I was like, I'm just going to get it for him for Christmas.
I think that's the first thing that'd be a resolution that I could have, is just practicing meditation every day consistently. Because I find like when I do meditate, it does set the tone for the day. It just makes you more, like, I think it puts you in this state of like mindfulness of your day versus like,
sure,
you just kind of like just get caught in the wheel and then you're just operating.
That's right.
It sets the intention for the day too. So yeah, that would be my answer. Would be a meditation.
Okay.
For a resolution, because I feel like everything
every
comes
day,
from that.
and then yeah, that's how I feel too. I feel like it creates a certain energy within you, and then that's what you put out.
Yeah.
And then that creates and so if you can set that, as you said, that intention or that energy first thing in the morning, that is ideal. That is ideal.
That is the ideal. Making it.
There's a friend of mine. I'm looking at this. Somehow these conversations get longer than we expect. Any parting thoughts? So your goal is to do a little bit of 5 to 10 minutes of meditation every day. And how are you going to prompt yourself, Po? What's your cue going to be?
I think whenever the alarm goes off, that should be my cue. That's the moment my alarm goes off. The first thing I'm going to do is meditate before, and then that also means getting up, because I've tried to meditate after the alarm goes off when I'm laying down, and I fall back asleep.
And you fall back asleep. Yeah, I hear you.
So maybe that's something.
Yeah, this is why sitting up for meditation is helpful, because otherwise there's a tendency to fall asleep. When I first started meditating, I tried doing it at night before I went to bed, and I would fall asleep. I would fall asleep, which is fun, but then it sort of defeated the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like if my purpose was to get practice and changing my relationship with my thoughts and recognizing them and focusing on my breath, and I was just falling asleep every night, then I was like, oh, this isn't going to work. So, okay.
All right.
Wonderful.
Well,
I'm looking forward to checking in then next week. And I appreciate you, Po.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
I really do.
I'm very grateful for you, Dr. Rak. I really appreciate this time. I look forward to it. I always make it a point to get this done, not only for me, but I feel like just our, the way we connect on this level.
Your kids are home today. My kids are home today because it's break, and you told me, I don't know where I'm going to do it, and then you made this makeshift workstation in the garage with boxes just so you could have a private space to do this. So I'm in my son's room as always, and I told him right before, I was like, get anything you need now,
Right.
because I'm locking the door for
Yeah, my
for 90 minutes. And so
yeah, my daughter just texted me, Dad, I got practice at 11:30. I'm like, oh man, I hope we stop before, because
we'll be done.
you know.
Yes.
But
no, that's very important. You get to your daughter's practice. Thank you all for listening,
yeah,
and we'll see you next time
until
for
next
another
time.
episode of the Health Feast. All
All
right.
right, have a good day.
Take care. Bye,
Bye
Po.
bye.